Senator Debicella.
Thank you, Mr. President. The deficit mitigation package we have here tonight stands in sharp contrast with the one that the governor proposed. The one that the governor proposed relied on spending cuts to actually close the deficit. The vast majority of her items were spending cuts. The deficit mitigation before us tonight has less than 20% of its deficit mitigation in cuts. The vast majority is in increased taxes and one-time gimmicks. If you actually look at the numbers, the actual number of spending cuts is $80 million in FY10 and $70 million in FY11, significantly less than the $80 million that the governor had in FY10, very similar, but the governor had $120 million in spending cuts, $50 million more in FY11. So how does this deficit mitigation package actually work? Well, first, 50% of it comes in increased taxes. Again, we are right back where we've been every single time the majority party has proposed how we close deficits. It's with taxes. First and foremost is a tax on sick people, is a tax on hospitals that will be passed through to our patients in the form of higher costs. At a time when in Washington and elsewhere we're trying to debate how to lower health care costs, this body wants to raise them by the tune of $160 million. Second, we want to raise taxes on small businesses. The estate tax reform that we did last year was a reform targeted at raising the exemption from $2 million to $3.5 million. Not on the billionaires, but on the small businessmen, to try to exempt more small businessmen who have built up business and want to pass it on to their kids, exempt them from the tax. This reverses that and raises taxes on small businessmen. So again, 50% of this budget is just the same old that we've heard from the majority party for the last 2 years. Raise taxes on sick people and small business. Second is it takes what is possibly the least desirable aspects of the governor's plan and keeps them, specifically deferring the pension payment, $100 million. It's an easy fix. It's a one-time gimmick, but we're still going to have to pay that. Our pensions are underfunded. And most ominously, this budget actually does some of the things that the Appropriations Committee budget did that are simply ways to pave the way for new spending. Specifically, trying to move DISH and SAGA into Medicaid. First, with the DISH program, which gives money to hospitals, the legality of doing this under the federal government's guidelines is seriously in question. To say that we can actually move money that is for hospitals, not for Medicaid patients, under Medicaid, and hope we can get reimbursed for it is very questionable in terms of the legality. Second, we are actually increasing the deficit in the out years, in 2012 and 2013, by putting more people onto Medicaid when we all know that the current reimbursement rate of 61% is only good for another 15 months, and then it goes back to 50% when the stimulus package ends. So we are actually increasing our deficit in the out years. And we're actually creating, most troublesome of all, more entitlements. With SAGA, it's a good program, but it's discretionary. As we put more and more people onto Medicaid, we are tying the hands of the taxpayer to actually solve future deficits by putting people into a program that we really can't tinker with because it's set by federal law. Now, you might ask, well, why do we do this? My friends on the other side of the aisle would say, it's because we want to get more federal revenue. And somehow thinking that federal revenue is a pot of gold out there that we just have to go grab. It's all taxpayer money. Whether it's money that we're paying in state taxes or federal taxes, the people of the state of Connecticut are paying for increased spending. And that, Mr. President, is the dirty little secret in this package, is that it is all to pave the way for the increased spending that the majority party wants to do in 2011, to get more federal revenue, to free up, to spend the extra $400 million that the Appropriations Committee passed just 36 hours ago. So deficit mitigation, on the surface, they're raising taxes to close the FY 2010 deficit. But in the long term, this is just paving the way for the big government expansion that the majority party voted for on the Appropriations Committee. I urge rejection of this deficit mitigation package.
Thank you, sir. Will you remark further?